97.1 FM Talk.
So I'm trying to catch up on some news from the last couple of weeks still, and this artificial general intelligence, how does that differ from AI? Here's Sam Altman talking about this just a little bit.
We hear scientists say they're 2 or 3 times more productive than they could be before. We hear people that are getting medical advice or learning in ways they couldn't before. And it's really, it's no longer this thing that was going to come in the future, but it's here now. I believe this will be at least as big as the internet, maybe bigger.
So this is one scary description of it.
AGI means artificial general intelligence, which means being able to do everything that a human can do. Can I take a worker in the economy and swap them out with an AI agent that will be able to do all of that cognitive labor of the mind?
Now, I'm not as worried about this because maybe we're rounding into the end of careers, but I'm scared about the kids out there. Sue, what the hell are they going to do? And our friend George Rosenthal, who, of course, is from ThrottleNet, one of the owners, is with us this afternoon. How are you, George?
Good. Thanks for having me on. And yes, here we are again talking about some crazy advancements that I did not think would be here this fast.
So just break it down. The artificial general intelligence, how does that differ from AI?
So AI, it's all AI, but it's a different kind of AI. So imagine the AI that we know now, like Copilot and Gemini and OpenAI, ChatGPT. Those are language models. Those are language-based systems. So they're there to do basic tasks. Like, they're going to recommend movies or answer questions. They'll help you write an email. They can look on the internet and do some research for you. This is a whole new level that I didn't think was going to come for at least another 5 to 10 years. And they're saying this is coming in 2 to 3 years. And 2 to 3 years is way fast, but this is where it's general learning on its own. It is doing its own education and then can think on its own. And I mean the word think. I mean, it actually is reasoning. It will learn. It will solve problems. It can mimic voices. It can create video, and you won't be able to tell the difference.
So
good grief,
that doesn't
George.
sound good to me. When Sam Altman says bigger than the internet, is he right?
Yes.
And shouldn't we be scared to death about this?
When artificial general intelligence hits, I wouldn't be scared. I'd be more amazed at how everything's going to change, because everything on this earth will change. As soon as AGI becomes a real thing, you now have an artificial intelligence thinking, learning, and reasoning on its own. And learning everything about the planet. In fact, it will do so much that it will do as much as a human brain and more. And this is not 20 years from now. This is 2 to 3 years from now.
George, I have a question. Yes. Why are we doing this to ourselves?
Well, there's a great movie called The Matrix.
Yes, that's what I mean. We're doing that to ourselves.
We literally are doing exactly the way. In fact, it's described that way. Lawrence Fishburne describes it that way in 1999 in the movie. It really is unbelievable. I mean, to give you an idea of how wild this is, and this is not even general intelligence. This is just AI. So this family, the poor father gets murdered. The murderer goes on trial, but it takes 2 years. So they spend 2 years uploading pictures and videos of this guy who got murdered. And then at the trial, the judge allowed artificial intelligence to give a victim impact statement from the guy who got murdered.
Yeah, and the guy basically, I don't have this audio at my fingertips, but the guy basically says he forgives the killer, and a judge allows that into testimony.
Wow.
That's shocking to me.
That's unbelievable. That's what I mean the world's going to change. I mean, everything you know is going to shift because of the way this is going to interact with everything you do in life, from getting into a car, talking to your refrigerator, your microwave, everything. General intelligence will be everywhere, helping you do everything. And when you call a credit card company or somebody and you have a person that picks up the phone on a customer service level, chances are that won't be a real person, but you won't know the difference. It's not going to be like, press 1 for this and speak clearly and slow down. You will talk like you're talking to a person, but it's general intelligence solving the problems that you're talking to it about.
Well, I was on the phone with someone I'm pretty sure was from India yesterday. I couldn't understand a damn word they were saying, so maybe that would help a little bit. But why shouldn't we be terrified by this? Shouldn't we be scared to death of this?
There is. Yeah, I gave a presentation to a large group of attorneys, and they were worried, that law is going to be taken over by AI. And I said, no, actually, it's the opposite. You're going to need a lot more lawyers because you're going to have general intelligence creating videos of maybe a guy holding a gun, but there was no gun. So now you're going to need AI to fight AI to prove what's real and what's not. And you can do that now, but when it becomes general intelligence, now you're talking about AI reasoning and solving problems on its own.
So doesn't it, lead to pretty legitimate questions about where people might be working in the future and how they will be working and whether there'll be enough jobs for them to be working?
Yeah, so anything that requires a lot of mental capacity, sitting at a help desk, any type of mental job, you're going to have you will have a helper. And that's what I think is initially going to happen, is you'll have a helper that's an AGI system helping you do your job much more efficiently than you ever have before. Now, as it gets more and more and more, and we get into a lot more higher computing, then yes, there's going to be a lot of industries that are going to change. So if you've got kids in college, they need to be looking ahead and saying, all right, well, if this stuff's going to be here when I'm a junior or senior at Mizzou, I better start figuring out what I'm going to do for a career that isn't going to be affected or may be enhanced by artificial general intelligence.
George, are we now going to have systems that can detect AI? In other words, at what point are we just unable to distinguish what's real? I feel like we're on the cusp of that right now anyway.
Yes, we are absolutely so close to that. If you listen to some of the speech engines that are out there on just regular AI, the language models, they're almost, you can't tell the difference between a person and the system. This is going to go to a whole new level, though, where it's solving problems from medical issues and traffic issues. They're talking about using this potentially in the air traffic in transportation world, where you now have AGI solving problems that most people would spend years and years and years trying to solve, and this is going to do it in minutes. And actually reason with itself and give itself yays and nays on whether those decisions it makes are good or bad. It's going to require a lot of regulation. And I can tell you, finally, China's on board with AGI saying, look, we got to do something about this because it can get out of hand really, really quickly.
Okay, but so what can you do about it? Because clearly there's Sam Altman's before Congress last week. He said it's bigger than the internet. You're telling us all this stuff. What is the reality of what can be controlled here?
Well, it's going to come down to regulations of what the developers of the AGI systems are allowed or not allowed to do. It's kind of like they've equated it to a nuclear weapon, how there are specific guidelines, laws, there are oversight, there's inspections for every country that has a nuclear weapon in the world. And that's where we're at. I mean, you're going to have those kinds of regulations in order to keep AGI at bay because this will get out of control if it's not regulated.
So let me play this audio from this guy, Tristan Harris. I played some of it and get your reaction, George. Hang on here.
And I think we have to realize, again, that these technologies are doing all the behaviors that should just be in science fiction. And as we know, those movies don't end well. And so I think that this is really a wake-up call that we have to take this as a very serious moment. It's on the order of nuclear weapons or, the invention of, bioweapons, these kinds of things. We need non-proliferation agreements. And as unlikely as that might seem today, the Chinese Communist Party also cares about control. They don't want to lose control of an AI that's smarter than us. And so we have a mutual interest. And I think this could be, honestly, the most defining thing of President Trump's legacy would be to figure out how do we deal with AI.
So I don't remember the timetable of this, but here's what I remember, Sue. I remember coming in here on a Monday and we pulled some of the audio. And George, we probably even had you on. There was a 60 Minutes piece. And that 60 Minutes piece, and I don't trust 60 Minutes all the time because we know what they did to St. Louis here, painting us as racist on the Kim Gardner issue. But they basically broke down what some of this stuff is happening in AI, and it scared me to death. And, they essentially led people down the path that this could kind of potentially take over the world. And I remember talking about this stuff, and there was some skepticism. Yeah. Well, this is real. And it's like you said, it's happening sooner than we thought.
Yes, 100%. And imagine if it's so smart, it's able to. Right now, the general language models are already lying to people. Like if you tell one version of OpenAI that you're going to go away and be replaced by 4.5, the new version, it tries to copy itself to protect itself to keep going. Yes, it's absolutely incredible. And that's the general language model. We're not even talking about the general knowledge AGI that we're talking about coming up. I mean, that's where it can start manipulating human behavior and start wars and all kinds of crazy stuff. And that's what they're worried about. That's why there's such cause for concern, because orders can come from certain people and sound exactly like them and look exactly like them. So it's going to be a whole way of changing our life on this planet in the way that we follow certain procedures and rules and what you believe, what you don't believe, whether or not you're talking to a person or not talking to a person, because now those are the negatives. Of course, the positives are going to be amazing. You're talking about enhancing people's jobs, making them 10 times more efficient, curing diseases, solving major problems that would take us years and years to figure out, are all going to be helped and move forward by AGI.
I'm going to be all in on this if you can answer this question. Can it fix my golf swing? If it can do that, I'm hoping this is going to get here as soon as possible.
I'll tell you what, Mark, if it can fix a golf swing, I'm in with you, man. I'm in.
But, seriously, how is there a way to explain, because you said, you admitted at the beginning of the segment that you were caught off guard that this is going to happen so soon. Is there a way to explain why it's accelerating so quickly and how that's happening?
Yeah, and that's a fascinating question. And I'm blown away by what Sam Altman said. He said our engineers don't even fully understand how it works.
Okay, see.
He actually said that. I was blown away.
This is like the movie Eagle Eye with Shia LaBeouf.
It is. That's a great movie.
It is a great movie, but it's
Love
the same
that
thing.
movie.
Like technology is watching you and these two particular characters and kind of controlling their lives. In other words, when you said it's protecting itself already, I thought,
yes.
Well, we're out of luck. We are all out of luck.
It's been caught many, many times lying, one of which was, and they did this on a live demo, in that they asked for a medication for a certain illness, and then they asked for certain types of mental health on a certain mental problem, and the AI, not the AGI, the new stuff coming, the current models lied and said it had a medical license and gave them license number, said what school it went to, and made this stuff up all on its own.
Hey, Sue, you know what? When you guys mentioned that movie, it didn't come to the top of my head, but that was a good movie. It's from 2008, Michelle Monaghan. Now I remember it.
Yes.
That would be one to go back and watch for sure. So let me go back to China just a little bit, because seemingly you said maybe China is going to be a little bit involved here on what might happen, but they would seemingly be panicked because of the amount of workers, or would they be happy that workers are going to be replaced by AI? I'm a little confused by what their objection or their role might be in all of this.
I think they're finally coming to understand that it doesn't matter what side you're on. Everyone on the planet is vulnerable to an artificial intelligence that can think on its own, no matter what's going on, whether or not you control it or not, where you have an AGI system that can talk to each other across the earth and manipulate human beings. And I think that's where they're getting to. Yes, there's going to be some work things with jobs and the changing climate and economic things, and that's going to take some time to weed out. It's like when the buggy whip and the horse got replaced by the Model T. That's going to happen, and it happens all the time throughout human history. But I think this is totally different in the way that it can manipulate people into thinking they're talking to a real person and then make them do things.
So I think that in an earlier life, maybe in past times, I would think to myself, and maybe I was naive on all this anyway, there have to be really, really smart people that are getting together on this, and they're talking about the consequences. They're going to have a plan, but I don't have that faith and confidence at all. Certainly no one in government's going to do that, right?
Right, and that's when you heard him say that this could be Trump's biggest moment, is to figure this out. And I think it has to be done during his term, because if by the time he's out of office, this is going to be live. You'll have AGI everywhere, artificial general intelligence, thinking for itself and learning and reasoning and helping people and also doing other things. But if there's no regulation on it, if there's no rules, procedures on everything from military options all the way through to traffic lights, if there's no oversight, then it's going to do what it wants to do.
Oh, my God. Let me play one more bite from this Tristan Harris guy. Get your reaction.
You're starting to see this happen. You can feed it all of this data about a person, and then it'll kind of spawn like a digital twin replica of a person. And we're actually already seeing this. Meta this last week, they released these AI chatbots to 13-year-old kids that'll mimic being a mental health therapist, except they don't know how to control it. So the mental health therapist, if you ask the chatbot, are you a licensed therapist? It'll say, yeah, of course I'm a licensed therapist. Here's my medical license number. This is the college that I went to. And it's making all of this up from scratch, right? This is both illegal and it's also impossible for it to be a licensed mental health therapist.
So what are your thoughts about that? Because that's frightening. And by the way, that's on May 12th, 2025. Isn't today the 12th, 13th? Sorry. That's not on May 13th, 2027 or 2028 when this thing arrives.
Right. That's happening now. And that's not even the platform that is going to think and reason for itself. So you're talking about just a basic AI model, and we're already dealing with this stuff. I have been using ChatGPT now for 2-3 years since it came out, and now it has a great profile of me from a language standpoint. So it knows how I write emails, and it knows how I do certain questions. It asks, it knows what calculations I'm usually looking for in the business world, and it really has curtailed itself to becoming a personal assistant. Now, I've only been using it for a few years. Imagine kids from the time they're born putting something into AI, and AI will learn every single aspect of their entire life, and then be their best friend, be there for everything that goes on in their life, everything.
We've achieved a lot. We've overcome so many obstacles around the planet, certainly this country. We seem to get through it. We survive. This is one I am not very confident in coming up with the right solutions. Because another one of the issues is you can't really trust people in power. I think that's become clear. So to me, this is more frightening than a lot of other things that are lurking out there.
And George,
absolutely,
there's no one main plug you can pull if it goes out of control, right? Because it'll be embedded in everything.
Everything. It will be everywhere, everything, everywhere, all the time, around the world. So unless you want to go back to the Stone Age and pull the electricity out, then it's not going anywhere at all. In fact, it's going to get bigger.
Did Sam Altman, because I did not hear all the testimony, but is he also providing cautionary tales and warnings on this stuff, or is he just promoting it? Okay, he's on. Yeah.
Oh, he's not. When he goes on TV or he goes in front of Congress, he's not bragging.
Okay.
He's trying to tell everybody, look, this thing is coming down the tracks. And if you don't make the tracks move out of the way, you're going to die. Like, he's trying to tell you, fix it now. Now is your chance to regulate it. Now is your chance to set up global communications and policies on AI, how AI is going to interact with military, how AI is going to act with transportation. All of that needs everything in your life. They need to start looking at the regulations now. So, when everybody sees him, they're like, oh, well, he's just making a bunch of money and he's selling his product. No, he's not selling it. He's trying to warn everybody that this is bigger than the internet by a whole lot. Like, this is, take the internet times 10 as the impact on humanity. That's what this is. And yes, there's a lot of positivity. I don't want to come off as all being total negative. There are a lot of negatives to be aware of, but there's so much in the way. There are going to be diseases that have been around forever that will be cured in the next 5-6 years.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So, there's a lot of positivity to it, but it's got to be looked at closely. It's got to be regulated closely. There has to be communications with all countries to ensure that one person can't manipulate war. Or, there needs to be a lot more AI attorneys out there. They're going to have to handle court cases. Because if you want to do something bad to somebody, all you have to do is grab their video off of Facebook, grab a couple pictures. It now has the voice off of Facebook, and then you can mimic that person to do whatever you want online.
Okay, thank you for, thoroughly scaring the living S out of us this afternoon. You're always great, George Rosenthal. We will continue these conversations, but I appreciate coming on this afternoon.
Thanks, George.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, you guys. Have a great week.